Next up, we have a panel from moderated by the one and only Chris James. And it will be about navigating emerging markets for global growth.
All right, well, I'll take the stage then. Can I welcome my lovely panelists to stage in a little cozy circle? Come on, I'm not going to name you all. It's not the Olympics or something. Kadri, Jussi, Thamer, Miikka, come on the stage. Right, come and sit yourselves down. I'll move. You don't have to sit next to me. I'll move across. Cool. Right, this is the last panel of the day, so let's have some enthusiasm and engagement, and then you can, if you're really good, you can get extra drink tickets. So there's no pressure. So this is. We've just had an interesting talk. I thought it was really cool actually about the African market, which is something I'm kind of interested in as well. This was initially entitled Navigating Emerging Markets. But actually, considering the expertise we've got, we're going to narrow that down a little bit more onto the MENA space. I just want to drop a few kind of figures in recently. Last year, in 2022, according to Newzoo, who keep all the data, the MENA market was the fastest growing. It was up like 6.5%. And this year, it's projected to be the fastest growing again, up 8% to something like $7.2 billion with 574 million players. So something to pay attention to, right? And you guys are experts in this space. So, I've lost my... Is that mine?
Yeah.
Is that me moving about? Sorry. I hope I'm not too... So, I'd like to start, as usual, by each of our panelists just offering a quick introduction to who they are and what you are doing in the MENA space, or have been doing in the MENA game space. So, from the far end, Jussi, you're first.
Yeah. So, hi, everyone. I'm Jussi Autio, and even though it says Resistance Games here, I was working with Kadri in Riyadh in GameFounders, helping the startups, helping establish startups and then accelerating them for.
Cool. So you're helping the ecosystem.
Yeah. The grassroots.
What are you doing, Kadri? Is it completely different?
Oh, it's a long story. Hi, everybody. I'm Kadri Harma. So I'm also one of the founders of GameFounders that just finished one-year program in Saudi, so Jussi has a very good insight into the everyday life and struggles of the people there, but I was also 2 years as the CEO of 966 in the Savvy Games Group, and our job was more to look on a strategic level how to support and grow the local industry. So also got a chance to go to all the other countries in the region and have quite a lot of insights from there as well. As to you, now that you are...
People think I know things. We can't have that. Miikka.
Hi everyone, my name is Miikka Lindgren. I'm a VP Publish in Sandsoft. Sandsoft is a Saudi origin gaming company, so we are working as a publisher, not only publishing games in the MENA region, but globally as well. And we have also our own development. At the moment, we have already studio set up in KSA, but we are planning to open another studio in Europe soon. And in addition to be publisher and developer, we are investor, so looking for excellent games and game companies to be invested.
Fantastic. So we've got 3 people sort of affiliated with Saudi, and not Saudi, so but Middle Eastern. So
well, hi,
we're at this side.
Something different. My name is Thamer. I'm the head of growth at Jawaker. So we are a company based out of Jordan, Amman, and with offices in Dubai and Baghdad, Iraq. So we are a social card game. So we're over 45 plus card and board games, the largest in the MENA region. We've been so we do our own development and publishing. And so we've been live since 2010, and then 2 years ago we were acquired by Stillfront Group based out of Sweden.
Well, 2 years this last weekend, is it? Big party.
Yeah.
So drinks on you, that's great. Okay, first question, I guess, we'll go back the way. I gave us some numbers. We're the fastest growing, the MENA market is fastest growing, albeit from a lower base, obviously, than Asia, America, whatever. But how big can it get? How bullish are you about the prospects over the next couple of years? Say, I don't know, somewhere between 2 and 5. I remember when the Chinese games market was just getting started, and that's done quite well. So is that the sort of scale we're looking at? I mean, obviously, there's a lot of gamers there. We're talking about, I think it was like 600 million almost gamers. So how big can we get? Is this going to continue being the market region to grow?
I think so, absolutely. I mean, from 2 to 5, I'd give it 5. I mean, the amount of young people in the Middle East is pretty big, and the amount of gamers in Saudi Arabia has a huge penetration in Jordan and Iraq and other areas, and there's still room for growth.
Okay.
So absolutely, I think.
So you're bullish.
100%.
You've set up a studio there. You have to be bullish. Be pretty mad to be doing that if you weren't, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So we are quite bullish on that because if you look at the numbers, that's the area that has the growth at the moment. So obviously the potential is huge. So if you look at the past numbers that Nico Partners released some time ago, they said that 70 million of the players are generating roughly 2 billion revenue. And you have 600 million kind of audience there, or let's say market. So of course there's room for growth. I think that the biggest limitation is probably the number of people living in that region. So that's the only limiter.
Yeah.
So.
We'll come back to that in a second. So again, do either or both of you wish to add to this? I'm going to. You both had your own opinions, I appreciate, but you know.
I maybe want to. I mean, obviously, I'm agreeing in terms of the direction of the growth, but I maybe want to bring another aspect. I feel that we're only scratching the surface in terms of like what the games industry in the region can be itself.
Yeah.
We're talking about players. Yes, there's already a lot of players, but they don't have a huge amount of localized content or content coming out of the region. And I think in that sense, once we start unlocking all of that talent, once you have all of these initiatives that all the governments are doing actually working, and then you get more and more of the local studios, growth, relocation, all of that, then I think that will kind of like be almost like the second wave, like we're seeing the first wave now based on players. Okay. But I think that there will be like another one there as well.
We'll come back to that because that is a really important part of it, is the ecosystem.
Yeah.
And I'll bring you into that later. So you mentioned big numbers in Saudi, and obviously, you know, like Europe, like, you know, and lots of any state. There's more than one country here. Lots of different countries, lots of different regions. When we're talking about the MENA market, we had somebody talking about Africa just now. We're not really talking about Africa, maybe Egypt, I guess. But what do you guys kind of see as being the kind of targetable MENA market? I mean, you're obviously in Jordan, so your domestic market must be part of what you're targeting.
For us, it's the Levant, plus Iraq, and in the GCC, it's usually Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Oman, and the UAE. And Qatar and Bahrain are small in population, but that's usually for us is where the big players are. It's where most of the users are, and there's still room for growth.
Is that broadly the kind of an agreement? That's what we're all aiming for. Saudi and the Gulf states, you know, maybe the main players, but
MENA 3 basically is the driver for the growth for the region. So KSA obviously has the, let's say, biggest revenue, and then UAE has the highest revenue per user, and then Egypt has the fastest growing kind of gaming population.
Egypt's obviously huge, and You agree with that? You're fine. Obviously, there's a lot of footballers there now, and they apparently have quite a lot of disposable income too. So maybe they'll be boosting the numbers. And what are the games that are succeeding? You were just saying, we'll come on to that a bit, about how there's still not a mass of local grown content. So what are the game genres or specific titles that are succeeding there? Is it just the same as everywhere else? Is it Candy Crush and PUBG and whatever, or is it something different?
I would say that if you look at the top crossing chart, it's quite clear. It's social competitive gaming that is generating the most revenue. So it's literally first-person shooters, it's forex strategy, tabletop games. So those are the leading genres that where the most revenue is made. But I think that there's a room for growth for other genres because there's a growing audience of females that are desiring for other content. So I'm quite sure that there will be growth for puzzle and merge and other more casual titles.
But are you saying that at the moment, we'll come to you in a second, but are you saying at the moment that it's a more male-dominated audience? Okay, interesting. Because obviously mobile, typically everyone's got a phone, right? So.
But I think also, if you think about this, just the sheer number of people and players there, it's not really relevant what is on top. Like even if you are in position 199, you're still very comfortable. Because of the spending and because of the sheer number of people. So I think.
Being at number 199 and be comfortable is great. Well, no, it's great. It should be.
No, but I'm just saying that I don't think that necessarily all the studios should align to, this is what's top crossing, so I should do this. I think everybody should just like, figure out their niche and do that, because there's plenty of people and plenty of money in all of those right now.
And actually, there might be niches that aren't properly catered for. And the reason these games are there because the ones that are localized or whatever.
Yeah, well, a good example is the Stumble Guys. So Stumble Guys, when it was released, it was actually growing really fast in the MENA region because of the social gameplay. So it's not FPS, it's not forex strategy, but it was a social gameplay that was very interesting experience for the players. So kind of the reason that these games are successful is that you can play against other players. So.
And Savvy liked it so much they bought the whole company.
Yeah, exactly.
That was good. So social gameplay, that's where you squarely sit, right?
Absolutely. I mean, one thing to understand in the Middle East, in the region, social gaming play like tarnib, tricks, hand, it's part of our culture. I mean, we play during Ramadan, we play with our grandparents, like backgammon. So it's something that we grew up in, and by default it is the largest thing to play in terms of games, and that's what we do at Jawaker. So we develop games that are focused more on the culture, and it's different, for example, in Jordan than it is in Saudi Arabia. But it's tabletop games, card and board games. And in terms of the female aspect, we're actually seeing a huge number of growth of female gamers. They love, for example, playing Ludo. I mean, 35% of our users are females.
Okay.
And it's increasing at such a rapid pace. And add on top of that, the social aspect of it. Like, for example, voice chat and group playing together.
Because your apps are very social in their very nature, right?
Absolutely.
It's as much a social app as a kind of
Exactly.
game.
I mean, we have people who come on the app just to speak to each other and just, it's like little Facebook rooms, groups, and they're constantly communicating at the same time. They're playing together. So we are more of a social app than we are just a gaming company.
Okay. You're going to come in, Jussi.
I was about to comment that at least in our program there, that 40% of the participants were also women. So I think that, and to them it was perfectly normal for women to develop games as well. So I would imagine that the number of female players is just going to grow as there is even drive to create, at least in Saudi. So.
And we've seen that. I mean, we run the Pocket Gamer Connects in Jordan. We've been involved in that event for a few years. And the number of young developers, at least, that are female, it's really weird because it's great because it's the industry's getting better, but it is still sort of the development industry still more male-led. Whereas in those the young talent coming through seems to be much more balanced, and it's great. Whether that continues through to people professionally do it, I don't know. We'll see. I guess it's early days.
It's changing. Just to add to that, I mean, look, we have developers in Saudi Arabia, and they're all female-based. So our office in Saudi Arabia, 100% female, and they're all developers.
And
the best developers we've seen.
Why do you think that is? Just because? Why would that be different?
Saudi women are just cool. What can you do?
I'm not saying they're not cool. I wasn't dissing Saudi women. It's just interesting. Why is it? Is it because this is such a new field and it's kind of, I don't know, it's an interesting... Okay,
I have a feeling that it's not just genderized, that in at least in Europe, often there is a serious lack of female programmers, and there the programming isn't as gendered that, okay, that's for men, but the education is similar to both, and then we see a huge number of, like not just artists being women, but also programmers, and
is that kind of like a function of the fact it is so new, so it's not had generations of kind of kids grow up in their bedrooms. I think it's also the fact
that there are like very strong, let's say, organizations and movements of like women, like Game Conference for Women and like this and that for women only. So it's almost like, the playing field is different, or the growth is different for that kind of talent to emerge.
Okay. So I'm going to stick on gamers for a little bit and then we'll come on to the industry. So in terms of, we've talked that social gaming and board gaming is a big part of the culture. Is there anything else that anybody visiting the space or thinking about pushing their games there needs to know? Obviously, there's different cultural, religious differences. Is there any other things you just need to realise about Saudi gamers or Jordanian gamers that might be different, or are they just gamers?
I mean, first-person shooter is also another big genre that we've seen grow at a tremendous pace within the MENA region. But no, they love gaming. I mean, it's part of their culture. They enjoy it. You see every single little child or teenager or even young adult playing games. We have cafes where you go, for example, smoke hookah and play card games. And that's just all over the MENA region.
Okay, fair enough.
But I would maybe say that let's say the players, like, they're very proud to be Arab in that sense.
Right.
So I would say localization is like very important, or let's say it can play a big role. Obviously, if it's a game that is already popular everywhere, it would go there as well as is. But as soon as you kind of, make something specific like a localized character, or you make something, they are grateful for it, and they show the gratitude with money, which is obviously something that we're all looking for, right? So
Gratitude with money, I'm always in favour of that. Any tips? There'll be a tip jar going around later if anybody wants to add. No, it's fine. No, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to provide entertainment and want something in return. What about the kind of marketing and acquisition channels? Are they familiar exactly the same? Is it the same just going through Google and Apple? The reason I ask this, I get the sense that that the existing telcos still have more of a role. Like whenever we do an event, Zane or STC, we don't. Seem more interested and engaged in the mobile content and the games than US or UK operators, for instance, or telcos. Are they an important channel? Is that a marketing channel or just?
Well, a bit of both. I mean, like, telecoms are still important because in terms of monetization, the DCB, which is direct carrier billing, it's still heavily relied on in terms of ways to pay for your hard currency through your mobile credit, and that's why they're still involved in those regions. And they're also doubling down on esports.
I'll come to esports.
Telecom areas. But just on the topic of localization, as you mentioned, I think in terms of marketing, localization is one of the most important aspects, and localizing to also the country itself. Localization, for example, to Saudi Arabia is different than localizing to Jordan, and it's different than localizing in Kuwait. There's different Arabic dialects, different in terms of characters. So you have to fully understand that, and every single game has a chance to grow in those markets. If you understand that correctly, and understand the culture correctly. In terms of, for example, putting out a character that's Saudi compared to putting out a character that's Jordanian. Jordanian people love it, and Saudi people love it. But you have to differentiate. You can't just kind of do marketing with a general Arabic and just put, for example, a sheikh as a character. No, you gotta understand the different cultures for those specific markets.
No, I guess that going back to the point, like, a lot of people obviously aren't publishing in that region yet, or developing maybe. So does that mean that to make the most of that localization, it's all about local partnerships? I mean, obviously the days of the App Store, you can publish where you like, you can just click a box and it's there. But to truly make the most of that, do you need to find a local partner for,
I mean, there are Arabs living all over the world, and I'm sure that people are experts also living elsewhere. But I think it is important to have somebody able to do it. I wouldn't say it's necessarily like the number one to have somebody on site to like help with all of the. Whatever.
But it's like in China, for instance. Like it's hard. It's a Western developed.
It's not as difficult as China, but I think you need to definitely have, if you're looking for that market, you need to have somebody who understands more than just kind of like, I speak like, Arabic and I'm from one country, but like there needs to be a little bit of a deeper. I don't yet.
I was going to have a little bit.
I would say that it requires at least specific team that would be focusing that area. Is it then external team or is it then internal team? It doesn't matter, but it requires specific attention because there are a lot of things like, let's say, event calendar. There are certain events in the Western world that do not have any, let's say, impact in the region. And same applies then on the weekends. Weekends are on from Thursday.
Different day. Unless you're in Dubai, of course. In which case they've changed it. They've very nicely changed their weekends.
So there are things that you have to tailor make, and of course you can do it internally, but it still requires that you have a people that will be specifically managing that MENA region.
I guess I just think about it because I see that a number of certainly the Jordanian companies, and a few spring to mind, I won't name them all, but like they seem to be focusing on bringing games to the region as much as creating new games, and that seems to be nothing wrong with that. It's a good business, but presumably they must be adding quite a lot of value in order to make that a business. So I won't mention who they are competitors. So somebody mentioned esports, and that's. It's something that our parent company very involved. We have owned some esports teams and worked with influencers, worked with the NFL around some activities. I'm certainly not an esports expert, and I'm always a little bit confused by how it all works. But it's huge in in the Middle East. Everywhere we go, the event we're running in Jordan in a couple of months' time, there's like esports bits before and after it, and they're putting esports in. Obviously, not quite on the scale of Gamers 8, which is the biggest esports prize in the world or something. It's huge, right? So why is esports so huge there? Is that just going into that kind of competitive sort of rivalries? Or what? I don't know, esports is big here, but I don't sense it's as big as it is in the MENA region.
Well, it's growing. I mean, first of all, I know that you mentioned earlier, the era pride of esports is finally becoming local.
Yeah.
Plays a big role. And what Gamers 8 did, and I went to it, it was pretty awesome and impressive. I mean, we ourselves, and I mentioned earlier, we hosted our first esports event in Iraq, which was a bit different. So it was the Dominoes. And we had almost 150,000 people play in the event online.
Oh, they're Domino's influencers.
Exactly.
I'd love to think there are, because guys.
And then the top 32 qualified played offline in Baghdad in an event. And honestly, it was the first time we do such an esport event, and it was the first time in Iraq's history. We had no expectation of the number of people that were going to join it. It was just massive. Prize pools is also another thing that plays a big role. I mean, we give out a car, which is nothing compared to the 15 million that Gamers 8 gave out for Dota.
Depends what car it is, right?
So, but I think that does play a role to that.
Yeah, okay. And are you? I mean, I've not been to Gamers 8, so I mean, like, do you agree that esports? It just seems a real driving factor there. I know in Dubai they're very excited about it as well. Is there any other reasons? It's just that competitive nature, or the fact that's
I think it was decided. Like I think
it was decided.
Exactly.
But
I think
it's like the football league. We're going to do the football league.
Well, but I think, let's say overall, why we are seeing this whole MENA being on like all the headlines and everything, it is also because it was decided and by a number of governments at the same time that this is an industry that we want to grow and this is an industry we want to support, and that's why it's growing and that's why we're here and that's why it was also there 3 years ago, but there was no panel on MENA then. So I think in terms of the esports it was similar. Like let's see what is it that we can do based on what we have in terms of players, in terms of people's interests and all of that. And as I said, like it was decided, not at all in a negative manner, but like governments have decided to give it a strong push to certain industries, and right now it's going well because we are all talking about it, right?
Yeah, well, no, it's great.
And I think that it taps also to the fact that the MENA region, or at least the Arabian Peninsula, puts a lot of effort also in tourism. That it's kind of the soft power that okay, there is content, and then please come visit, but then also like having that visibility to gamers as well, that there is esport events, and kind of taps into the similar stuff that what we see also in actual football as well. So
No, it's well, I mean, I'm very into actual football in the UK, and it's everyone's like obsessed with what's going on there at the moment. It's just the kind of the numbers are eye-watering, but it's actually, people have tried this before and it hasn't. This has really broken through, and maybe it is just the money, but it doesn't. It's working, whatever it is. So let's circle around a little bit and talk about the industry. It's something you've obviously both involved in and you've mentioned. Like, one thing is bringing games studios over, but then to have a sustainable games industry, you want homegrown kind of talent. And I know that both of you, particularly, well, all of you are involved in it one way or another. But can you speak a little bit, Jussi, about how how you're kind of working at the moment, and what's happening in Saudi Arabia to sort of advance the region and what you're working on?
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of different programs, and ours was just one of them. And it seems that there is a lot of public money, if we use the term public money, there to help the talent grow. But I got the feeling that it's often kind of ad hoc project. That okay, now there is the NEOM stuff. Let's associate that with funding.
Such a small project, NEOM. Let's just do it.
But I mean, so it's more like that they are nurturing a lot of talent via different mentoring programs, which makes perfect sense. I'm not criticizing at all, but like something that the teams could plan. That okay, now. I will apply it, like in Finland with Business Finland. You could start planning that, okay, part of this is here, like these are the rules, there is a regular structure, and then I leverage a publisher deal or something like that. That structure isn't yet there.
Yeah.
It's often like, okay, this is a program, it runs its course, and then we buy some other program from other partners. And from the startup point of view, it's kind of navigating that support. There is lots of support, but it's always ties the talent into different
I think
programs.
that with government support anywhere, that's often like that, right? You know, the grants system moves in the UK quite a lot and elsewhere. But so, what sort of programs are kind of? I mean, where are we at we've obviously got a few big publishers as big brands that set up offices in and around the region in different places. I know Jordan has pretty healthy the system of homegrown developers and stuff. Who's the most advanced and what's going on that we should kind of keep, or which regions should we keep an eye on? Because I know, for instance, in Egypt, there's loads of indie kind of small developers, but have not really that I'm aware of like a bigger publisher or anything like that. So I don't know. Maybe talk about what's the Jordanian, because Noor and others have been working. The King Abdullah Fund has been investing and in programs for 10, 15, 20 years. I don't know. So
A long time. It's not who's the most advanced. It's more of in terms of there's a lot of capabilities and a lot of room for growth and a lot of room for growth all over the MENA region for game developers.
Yeah.
And like with us, I speak with my team all the time. It's like based on our success story, and I'm hoping we see that multiple times across the region. And we were hoping, there's a lot of money being pumped into gaming studios across the MENA.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of the same in Jordan. It's like we really hope that these gaming companies focus more on profitability and are able to grow and kind of long-term sustainability, and not just kind of a hit and run.
Yeah.
And in Jordan, that's what's happening. There's a good, like at least 5 or 6 or 7 studios that are doing really well, phenomenal games, and same thing in Saudi Arabia and in Egypt.
Yeah.
And it makes us proud, right? And the more, the better. But we're just hoping that they tend to focus more on profitability, on long-term stability, and grow bit by bit.
Yeah. Well, you need that. You need local success stories to inspire the next wave of developers. I mean, if you didn't have your Rovios or your Supercells or Housemarques or Remedies here, who is it you follow? You need like something you go, okay, we want to be like them. So where are we with Saudi? You've obviously got the likes of Sandsoft and Savvy. Is it a case that you're seeing a lot of Western publishers coming over and expressing interest, or are you seeing local things that we would never have heard of, like springing up? Because
But I think also Sandsoft and Savvy you are mentioning just because we are here and we go into the international events. But if you're thinking about there's also the National Development Fund, who has never gone to any of the events, but they are like fully both investing as well as giving loan to game companies. So I think there's like a lot of things that we don't really see.
Yeah.
So in that sense, there's a lot of initiatives and everything. And I agree with Jussi that it's like maybe not the most, let's say, clear system right now. But also, if you think about Finland 30 years ago, it also wasn't. So it is just starting, and like everybody is starting with like a huge bang and like huge speed, and then it's maybe not 100% coordinated. But let's say if we are talking about going to the region, I think each of the countries have their own specific kind of angles or like advantages. Like for instance, I think probably Jordan is the one that has the most local technical talent available, because the universities have just done their work for so long, and like everything is really nice. The community is there, it's supportive, everything. I can't say that about Saudi yet, although it has been really, really growing and developing a lot.
It's a function of time as well as
exactly.
Money.
Education isn't something that you do fast, but at the same time, I feel that in Saudi, probably, let's say the coordination of the support is the biggest, because they are systematically looking at, okay, this is still missing, let's do that. Who is doing that? So it is something that is really being pushed, and also I think that currently probably the initiatives in terms of moving your company there and the incentives that you could get are highest in Saudi. And that is something that is now slowly beginning to work. Like I know that we already talked about this last year, but it wasn't maybe 100% working then yet, but now it's already starting to work.
Yeah.
So that is a good thing. Then, I mean, I don't know, if you look at Dubai, then they have the most I would say, international companies there, but they don't necessarily have local talent. So it's almost, always like, what do I want to achieve, and like what I need for it, and then you choose.
It's interesting you mentioned the incentives come across. So like, all these incentives, everything has a time frame, right? Not everything's going to be there forever. Is it, if you're a studio, you're doing okay, but you're interested in this market and you want to, is now the time to grab it with both hands? Or
Absolutely, yeah.
Because at some point, ultimately you want a domestic market, not necessarily bringing people in all the time. So it feels like there's a window there that if you're able to do it and it makes sense to you, now's the time to go. Yeah.
I mean, I think that definitely there is a huge need of international, let's say, people from the games industry to come in and help train the local people, because it's not like you're going to get that from universities only. Like, you need to have these practical programs, internship programs. For instance, Sandsoft is running multiple courses of their internship program already, and all of that is giving back to the talent pool and helping them to at one point then start their own studios.
Okay, and I mean, what do you think? Because you obviously, you've been involved in various programs, you're at 966 trying to encourage the ecosystem there, and with GameFounders separately. What is the vision? What is the timeline? Say you're looking at the Finnish ecosystem or the British or wherever you are. Is it like a 5-year plan? Is it a 20-year plan? When is it?
It is a 2030 plan.
A 2030 plan.
Yes.
So where are we now? That's 7 years then. Is that right?
7 years ago.
7 years to go. Okay, so it's got to be there by 2030.
I mean, the whole.
Or do they look at something else then?
The whole 2030 plan, at least for Saudi, is like very clearly written out, like 250 studios. I don't remember all the numbers.
Yeah, I think David's Sandsoft done that.
Exactly. So in that sense, it's very clear what is being aimed for, and also it is, let's say, waterfalled down into like all the initiatives by different ministries. Everybody has their KPIs. So in that sense, there is a system and there is a purpose.
So we know we're going. And how far along is that at the moment, do you think? 250?
Well, let me just check.
Roughly. Do you not get like, I don't know, we're like 10% of the way? Or I don't know. It's interesting. It's still early days. I'm going to stick with you, Kadri, for a minute, because I'm sorry to pick on you. But I know, because with your GameFounders initiative, you've had it in Estonia, you've been in KL, in Southeast Asia. And do you see, are there very different sort of challenges? How does it compare trying to encourage startups in different parts of the world? Is it a very different experience in Saudi to what it was in Southeast Asia? The same sort of challenge? I
mean, I think that the same way that we can find differences between the countries in MENA, there's also differences between the regions themselves, right? Yeah. So, for instance, in Saudi, or let's say in MENA in general, the talent, the labor force is not cheap.
Yeah.
In Southeast Asia it is. So, I mean, obviously you cannot do like an outsourcing company in Saudi and grow it into a huge thing and be successful. In Southeast Asia you can.
Unless you're outsourcing people from Southeast Asia.
Which is what they do, actually. Yeah, so
I've been to Dubai.
Exactly. So I think in that sense, like, they have like very different profiles, and obviously they need to play on their strengths, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah, okay.
So the strength of MENA is that they are able to push this with funding, and they're able to start a lot of things at the same time without waiting for the first one to bring you back money. So in that sense, we are in a very unique situation actually with this region, that it's really being pushed heavily.
Yeah. I guess on the flip side, as you know, you want local content for the local countries and local region, but obviously for Sandsoft and other companies, the vision is to be publishing to the world, right? And are there any are there any obstacles that local companies have to overcome before they can come out?
Yeah, I mean, I only know for the startups, not the giant like Sandsoft.
Sandsoft are different.
But I think that the one thing that the Saudis should do is that they, like Finnish studios or any studio, they go to events where the deals are made. So bigger push to get the benchmark. What is the level of games elsewhere as well, and putting support that it should always be as low barrier to go to Gamescoms or Pocket Gamer Londons or Helsinki's or Tokyo game shows and so forth. So
mainly Pocket Gamer London, but that's fine. They can go to the ones they want.
No, the next one is in Jordan.
The next one is in Jordan. That's a low bar. That's pretty easy to get to. It is in Jordan next. Yeah, that's. Thank you for plugging that. What about Sandsoft? What's your vision? You're there, but you've got talking about studios setting up in Europe. Is that here, or you're not allowed to say where it is?
Not
Barcelona?
allowed to announce that yet
Whatever,
because
fair
it's not
enough.
public. But yes, so obviously
You can tell us.
Not allowed to say in public, but
Yeah.
yeah. So next topic. So
But what's your focus? I mean, you're an international publisher. You're not just for that region. But what is the vision for Sandsoft specifically?
so obviously for our internal development, we are looking for a global market because why would you limit yourself only for the MENA? Because the games are global.
Yeah.
For publishing, I would say that we have two different offerings. It's depending on the customer. So if the developer is at the size of a Rovio, they don't want us to publish their games in tier 1 market.
Yeah.
So our value proposition to them is that yes, we can help you grow your business in the MENA region while you are focusing on tier 1.
Yeah.
And then for smaller companies that are lacking resources, is it then marketing or backend or is it then even UA funding, we will be providing the global publishing services. So really depends on that, what are the needs of the developer, how we can support them to actually grow their business.
Okay, fair enough. So I was going to ask, so what do we, anybody that's interested, what are the big opportunities now? If you're a developer, you're here in Finland, what is it you should be doing? Is it you should be talking to you? Or should you be just making sure your games are sort of localized and, try out some local, what are the biggest, what's the kind of lowest hanging fruit of approaching this market? Should you go and set up an office?
I would say just go to an event. Like pick
go to an event. That's a good. I like it.
Yeah, I'm doing all your marketing. I'm not getting paid for this, I promise. But let's say in general, like there are events in all the countries, but also there are like the big events that we see, but also there are small events.
Yeah.
Like in Saudi, there is the monthly IGDA event and like all of these things.
Woo, those are woo.
Yay! So in that sense, just go and meet the people and ask what they're struggling with and what is good and what is bad, and then make your choice. I feel it is very difficult for us to kind of like be here and be in everybody's situations and say like, for you this works and for you that works. So in that sense, I would literally just go and see and ask for the local developers what events you have coming up. Maybe you can even package like 2 or 3 countries within one visit or something like that. And I think
nice
that's
time to go, a bit of winter sun now as well.
Right?
Bit easier in the summer.
No, in 2 months.
2 months.
Jordan, yes.
Yeah, 2 months. I'm right, yeah.
See?
Gosh, they'll be getting emails. It's fine. But yeah, do you agree? I mean, are you?
Absolutely. I mean, like, for us it was reversed. So when we tried to expand into the Greek market, first thing I did was I actually reached out to gaming studios in Greece.
Yeah.
And I went and visited them, sat down with them, and understood what they do, and they're actually direct competitors in a way.
Yeah.
And then we eventually grew in the Greek market, in Greece. But yeah, it's networking, right? It's standing where those gaming studios fly out, meet them, learn from them, what works, what doesn't work, because each country is different from each market.
Yeah.
So that's very important.
No substitute for being on the ground and seeing what's going on. Would you agree
100%.
with that? Miikka, come and speak to you if you've got a big game you want to publish, right? That's what you'd say.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
leave Finland for it.
Yeah, that's why I'm here, because as you
too.
can know that there's a lot of Finnish gaming companies that have been succeeding in the global market, so it makes sense that we have people on the ground.
Fair enough. Have you got any final advice, Jussi, you'd like to throw at us?
You took me by surprise.
Yeah, I know, I did that on purpose, but you said it's every time.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we can't down to our last minute and a half, so I don't know if anybody's got a question. I know it's the end of the day, so we're small audience. Does anybody want to ask a question about the market we have here, or small assembled group? Oh, there is one. There's a man at the back with a moustache. Someone get him a mic. It's one of ours. Yeah, there we go.
So this is more sort of a general question about getting people interested in, specifically in the MENA region. Do you reckon there's still a bit of an element of culture shock for a lot of people coming from outside of that region? And how do you hope people will overcome that in both a personal and a company basis?
By culture shock, do you mean just got,
Well, just like
something different.
It's hot.
It's the other side of the world for a lot of people. It's like an 11-hour flight, and it's just a wholly different place. For people who want to go there and want to experience it, how do you hope that they'll kind of overcome that initial that initial shock of going somewhere so different?
It's, to be fair, I mean, Dubai aside, which is apparently called TripAdvisor the number one you're probably not going to go. A lot of other people aren't necessarily going to Saudi for a holiday already, so it is a new place to go. So I don't know what do we think?
Yeah.
I went. It was great. I mean, it was different, but it was
At least I feel that as long as you travel there with an open mind, you'll do fine. Like that's the main thing. If you go there with the stuff on your eyes, then you might not like it. But as long as you have open mind, it's going to be great still.
I mean, I have the experience of living in Saudi Arabia almost 2 years, and it was more or less my first visit to any of the countries, well, besides Dubai, to the region. And I would say that there are already such big networks of expats there that it would just make sense to see like who you already know and like reach out, and a lot of kind of like expats tend to network with each other or live in the similar places or something like that. So it's really not that big. So as Jussi said, if you kind of keep an open mind, I wouldn't say that it's a huge culture shock. And at the end of the day, like if you're going there with a purpose, then you're not necessarily going there to have a vacation.
You're not going there to live or anything.
Yeah.
That's true. But no, it's fascinating. I mean, it's good to have a bit of different culture as well, right? I think, go on. Sorry.
I would say just one thing: go and try food, and that will only be sold.
Go and try the food. They are very generous with the portions, and there's a lot of it. Very good food. Cool. I think we'll probably draw a line there. We're on time. So
that's it then. Please give a big round of applause to our panel. Thank you very much.
With the selfie.
End of the day.